Welcome. Namaste, beautiful souls. Today I am here with a deck new to me, the Architect's Tarot. And this is one of the many decks that intrigued me so much in my journey with the Ali Man Tarot that I decided to order this deck. And my initial impressions of this deck impressions are that it is one that I will keep. I'm not sure that it is a deck that I will be reading at any time soon, but I am intrigued. I am intrigued. I am intrigued with its loneliness, with its the journey of the individual through the art and through the experience of the elements is very poignant in this deck. And I have a feeling if you who there are people out there who will definitely connect with this. And I think poignancy is a great word to describe what is going on here. The creator of this deck, Yousef Boushehri, I believe I put his name in the title below, says that he created this deck as an exercise in meditation, self-reflection, skill development, and to connect with the world beyond his physical experience. And so there is this transparency between the lines and the drawings of the architect. There seem to be scenes that fade and reappear. There are connections among cards. It's really quite well done. After a year and a half of painting, the compiled deck was put on Kickstarter and it was funded in 3 hours. So he seems very grateful to those of you that supported this as the Kickstarter project. There is one extra major arcana, and we will have a look at that. And I just really want to get to the cards and really let this walk through. Let your mind blur a little bit, let your focus blur a little bit as you wander through these cards in through the lens of the architect and the artist who created this deck. For those of you that are just dropping in and new to this channel, my name is Sadhana, and I'm an intuitive reader and healer. And usually Wednesdays at this time, I am here sharing with you a deck new to my collection, or one that I have brought out that's been collecting dust for a while. And like I said, this one is new to me and finding this very, very intriguing. I'm going to go right in. I will hold up some of the cards to the camera so you can see the details, but I think one of the beauties of this deck is looking at it from a bit of a distance. And here I have on the table the first 6 majors, from Fool to Hierophant. Okay. The Fool as the architect themselves. And I just think this is really a beautiful self-reflection, contemplating the creation of a tarot deck as the Fool's Journey itself. And so here I imagine we have Yousef himself at the table, just wondering what it is he is jumping off and diving into. I could also see this deck as being inspiration for others diving into creative projects and not knowing where they are going. I'm wondering if this would be a brilliant deck, along with Chris Ann's business development deck, the Sacred Creators Oracle. Just something that came to mind. Now, the other thing too that we see in this deck are varying perspectives of buildings and shapes. And here we're looking from the roof down into an empty room where the magician stands. There are doors that are open in all 4 directions, and each direction representing an element. And as I say that, I'm thinking, wow, okay, can we also build the directions possibly into this deck? And there's a very small guidebook that goes with the deck. There is not a lot that is offered for each of the cards. So I think this is a deck that you can allow to grow in your mind and work with it in a way that resonates with you. So we see the high priestess high on the ledge above the 2 towers, gazing at the crescent moon, familiar symbology, and her position. I think this is something that is important in this deck, is to look at where the protagonist, where the seeker is, also looking at the size of the seeker in regards to the landscape. So we see the largest figure we have so far is the fool, right? The fool behind his desk. And then little tiny magician in the center of the room. High priestess is up high. And then when we get into the landscape of the empress, she is also very small. And we have, you notice here, these are the first cards that seem to connect across landscape with the 3, the 4, and the 5. I am a big, big fan of decks that have connections. And I love it when Empress and Emperor cards have connections and talk to each other, when they face each other, when they seem to reflect off one another. And there's something very important that is developing here. And also, this is very cool looking at the connection between the Emperor and the Hierophant. These two strong masculine energies, shall we call them active energies, also have a connecting landscape. We see the familiar stars that appear in the crown, the Empress's crown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They are all there. The bridges. I think the bridges are going to be clues, cues to where you choose to go in the reading, where you wander. And I'm sure that if you haven't seen this deck before, you we may very well be able to connect other cards as well too. I'm looking at the path. So this path here that leads to the bridge in the Empress card, I'm sure that this path will easily connect with other cards. I haven't done any readings with it yet. This is an initial walkthrough. I have flipped through the cards, laid out all the suits a few different times, and so far, very, very intrigued with what is going on here. Okay, and I would also like to lay it out for you in the 777 pattern, so I will do that. Okay, so the 6 does connect to the 5. Do we see the Emperor in the Emperor card? There is another question. I have not examined the cards with a microscope yet. No, not a microscope, a magnifying glass. Oh my goodness. Imagine if you put your tarot cards underneath a microscope. That would be so much fun. The structure. There are a lot of figures in the Hierophant card. And I wonder if it is significant, the number that are there. I see 1, 2, 3, I see 4. It wouldn't surprise me if there were 5. And you may also notice that the zodiacal symbols are also up at the top, the planetary associations and the zodiacal Correspondences are also on the card. So something is being built, and there are different viewpoints. There are different viewpoints. A piece of that, both the water, the body of water, as well as part of the structure, becomes part of the Lover's card. The Lovers carry the weight of the structure, and the energy of the water flows through the Lovers. And if you notice any cards you would like me to put side by side and you're here in the chat, please let me know, and I'll endeavor to do that. This flows into the water of the Chariot. And so here we have a Chariot card that actually has water on it, which is kind of cool. We have a boat. Can you see the chariots here in the front of the boat? They are, it's a bit like that scene in the Titanic, right there up at the front of the boat with their arms spread. The boat is flying, and it almost looks as though it's very interesting the way that the shadow is drawn there. I was going to say it looks like it has a tail, like it is a fish. Also, I will, if you're interested, I'll lay out and we can look at some of the color associations as well too. There are borders, there are color themes in each of the minor suits. Strength. It's funny, these cloud shapes that we see in the sky. To me, they almost look as though they are humans. There's like humans flying in the sky, but I think they're actually clouds. Flow of energy, connection. Okay. If any of you have been working with this tarot and reading with it, I can see this being quite a personal deck, a deck that, it's, I want to read you a little bit more of what Yousef said at the beginning of the deck that made me, he said, the world has been weird lately. We have undoubtedly contributed to the changes we've been experiencing, and we can also contribute to healing it and building a better future. Tarot can be used in many ways, and to me, it was a way to examine my innermost thoughts that I was having trouble bringing to the surface. And the Hermit. The Hermit is about to enter into a crevice in the rocks. Perhaps there is a contemplation of whether or not that is the best course or the best path for this time. In the Wheel card, there appears to be a figure in the river. And this deck was not packaged, nor is the guidebook introduced as in the order of the Tetragrammaton. So the suits are not introduced: Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles. The first suit that is introduced is the suit of Cups. And this tells me something. It tells me something about the intuitive, the liminal nature of the deck. perhaps tugging a little more at the emotions that underlie, that are a part of what is represented here. Justice. The sword is in the earth, and there is a lone figure here. I don't believe there are any title changes in the cards. This tarot reminds me of something, and I can't quite put my thumb on it. One revelation that I had recently, and that was in reviewing the Secrets of the Waite Smith Tarot by Katz and Goodwin, was the large landscape drawing that Pamela Coleman Smith did a year before, maybe years before the tarot deck was created. And that the idea that all of the pieces of the Waite Smith tarot deck were included in this landscape. And so it's like these, um, the macro became the micro. And here we're looking at something really quite remarkable here, like as far as perspective and perception. And notice how now we see the large, that's my dog, sorry, the sword taking on a different energy here, lodged in a crevice. This is the hanged man, right? And again, I wonder if this would not be the best deck to be working with someone who is lost and lonely and sad, but perhaps this would be an ideal deck for someone who was bravely wandering through their healing journey. Death. Let me hold this one up for you. So we have the um, fullness, the full effect of the moon in a daytime sky. So that's really interesting. And then notice how the figure is upside down. So we have a reflection as above, so below. Notice the perspective of where the figure in the death card is in relation to the moon. We also have familiar symbology. So we see the two towers here in this card, which is it's wonderful to have these symbols carried across. Um, this is so, I glanced through this and I didn't lay out the majors in this way, and this is really quite remarkable. So notice here in the Temperance card, as above, so below, as within, so without, the card that speaks to the alchemical marriage, we have all these very powerful reflections and connections. We see bits of other cards showing up here. This reminds me of the contemplation. Sometimes people sit and they think about, well, where is heaven? Where is the afterworld? And to contemplate the idea that, heaven is here and to go between realms, it's right there. It's just a matter of perspective. So something um, I don't know, I'm kind of intrigued. Part of getting to know this deck I think is laying the cards out like this and maybe playing with connecting cards. Now, when I'm looking at the devil card, I'm perhaps thinking about the cave, the crevice that the emperor went into. The light is shining in from the outside, and I guess it's up to you to decide whether those two figures are facing the devil or they have turned, they're walking away from the devil, because you can see the way the shadow is in this deck. And I think I haven't been paying attention, but I want to pay attention to shadow here. This is something that might bring in a whole other layer. Okay, the tower. So we don't have the connection is somewhat, we've lost the connection between cards, but we still have um, so in the tower, the river that connects out to the left is likely going to join up with other cards as well too. And if I take, I don't really want to get these out of order because I want to line them up for you in the three septenaries. But for example, let's take the Hierophant card, right? So you can see that the Hierophant, in a way, it will line up there with the tower. Okay. And then let's look at the last few majors here and see what's going on. So we have the star, and we do have connection. We have a connection between the tower and the star, and it's part of a bigger scene, which I believe includes the moon and the sun as well too. The moon anyway. This is beautiful cardstock. Usually cards slip around on my table, but this is, I believe, 400 GSM. Looks like it's going to shuffle beautifully too. It's not too thick. Um, really lovely. And, you know, I would expect this um, of an architect to choose the very best paper. Look at the moon card. Look how we have a different perspective of those two towers. So if we take the High Priestess, now the towers and the High Priestess were a little bit different. Let's just go to the Death card. Where is the Death card? Is it on the table? Yes, it is. Right here. So we have the exact towers from a different perspective. And so in wandering, this would be a great deck for path working as well too. And then the sun. So these two aren't connected. But the sun is connected to judgment. And you can see that judgment is connected to the world in a way. In a way. Now, the other piece here would be to look very carefully at the table in the full card to see what has evolved on the table through the journey on the deck, because I have a feeling there's going to be bits and pieces that are in this card that I haven't yet detected in the major, in the story of the majors. And then there is an extra card which you may or may not choose to leave in the deck, which is called the Architect. And you can see that there is the symbol of the world that is in the Architect card as well too. And I'll read to you from the guidebook, the intention for the Architect card, which is it numbered? Yes, it is numbered. And it also has the element of salt. That I think I may leave that card in. That's often I believe it's the Empress, right? That's connected with salt. The Architect upright is focus, experimentation, iteration, and creation. Reversed is obsession, contradiction, and inexact. The keywords for the cards are very Waite-Smith. I haven't None of them have stood out to me to be very different from what I would expect in a Waite-Smith deck. So let's just look at these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Take out this one. And I just wanted to look at the journey through the 7, 7. Where are we going? 7, 7, 7. I'm just going to put down the middle septenary just to see if we have any connections above and below as well too. Okay, so 14. This will also give you an idea about what the cards are going to look like in a 9-card spread or a larger spread on the table. Okay. All right, let's go to the Suit of Cups and have a look at that. So just as an overview, let's look at the aces, and maybe we'll look at the 4 aces, and then I'll lay out the suits, because like in James R. Eads' deck, there is a whole story. A few tarots have done that. I know the Blood Moon Tarot did that. So we're looking at one painting that has been taken apart in pieces. So here is your Ace of Wands. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I've also got some funky light going on. Here is your Suit of Cups, which is the first suit that is described. So I'm going to go and look at that one first. And I remember when I was doing my deep dive into oh my goodness, the one. So in the end, it'll come to me, the Hush Tarot. In the end, I decided that this was more of an apocalyptic kind of deck, and I imagined all of the decay, the growth that was starting to grow was in a. I decided it was at the Met in New York, and the masks and the props that we saw in the ground were relics of the Metropolitan um, Performing Arts Center. And I made up my own little story about where it was. And in Jeremy Hush's deck, he also presents the suit of water first. And I've been really doing a bit of an examination into how creators present their suits. And I think there is a lot to be said for that. So in this little guidebook, we have cups, pentacles, swords, and wands. Cups, pentacles, swords, and wands. And it looks like I've sorted them, but not put them all in order. This is most unfortunate. There also is something really funky going on with, I'll get you the Ace of Cups so you can see all the aces, and then we'll lay out the cups. There's also something funky going on with the Roman numerals, which is very interesting. There's your Ace, and your Ace of Wands. Obviously, I put the wands in order. It's very subtle, but the borders around the minor suits let you know what suit that you are in. The symbology is quite familiar. Okay, so let's have a look at the journey through the cups, and I will lay out. I'll do it. Come on. I'll try to get as many cards on the table as I can. Okay. I am honestly a little bit confused about this story, and I think what I might do is write my own story. Once upon a time, there was a name the protagonist, describe the setting, because in the Two of Cups, what we're looking at is two figures who are quite far apart. And as I was saying earlier, the sense of loneliness just runs through this story. There is your Three of Cups and four. So in the Four of Cups, this is really interesting. The fourth cup is it's almost like it's in another room, and the figure in the foreground hasn't even noticed that fourth cup that's way over in the distance. And as I'm looking in the background of this card, uh, what am I doing? I'm looking for familiar architecture because I think we're going to be, um, there's going to be repeating architecture. This card um, was the one that the alley man included in his tarot, and it really got to me. And I never like to call a tarot deck simple, but there's something about that. We also have a tarot deck here that is not identifying with any particular masculinity or femininity. Everything is in silhouette, and so it's very um, accessible. It's very accessible. Here is another card where we're looking at the reflection as above, so below. This is a six, so sixes represent the energy of the hexagram, the hard space. There is an intention of, well, I don't know if it's this creator's intention, but normally sixes are, there's peace and beauty and harmony and contentment of sorts. And we see a figure above, not looking towards the figure below, but perhaps there's a lot more we can see in here. We do have plant life growing in the above, but the pots are empty below. Okay, so let's do this. 6. 7. 8. And I don't know if you can see because we're at quite a distance here, but rather than a V111, 8 is a 11X. I thought when I was first looking at this, there may be a mistake, but no. All right, so in looking at the first 4 cards, sorry, the first 10 cards of the Suit of Cups, we have that blue border in all of them. There is a theme of blue. And perhaps what we're looking at here is the response of water throughout. 10 of Cups is one of the cards that I just discussed. I have a series on my channel, Thought Inspired series, and the 10 of Cups is quite an interesting card. And I see that he has brought in the Mars energy here. So we see a red sky. Hmm, very interesting. Okay. And let's look at the 4 court cards. Now, the court cards are not given human names. The court cards are simply numbered. So we have 13, 14, 12, and 11. And this 11 of cups is, I think it's really quite something. I will zoom in a little bit for you here so you can see this first set of quartz. And you get that, you really do get that sense of overwhelm. The page, the cup is almost full, and then something happens, and there's, it's like the sadness of the romantic poet in the Knight of Cups. The queen is filling up, and then the king, so it's like we have, we could compare the structures on the left side of the deck. We can compare the king's cup, the 14th arcana, the 14th court is overflowing. She is filling up. There's a shift in the subtleness of the color that could also be the lighting. So let's keep in mind that this is the receptive suit, okay? And I don't know, so that usually you would say that the suit of water and the suit of pentacles, 5, 6, 7, 8, are receptive. And he has also, notice on the court cards, written the astrological associations. So normally the pages, the 11th court cards, are not associated with an astrological sign. So he's got the pages, the queens, and the king, the 14th one. So he's got 14 is Cancer. So Cancer in the Golden Dawn system is the queen. So cardinal water is the queen. So some of these are reversed. Fixed water, Scorpio, he's got it at the 13th. So if you want to bring in these astrological layers, they're there for you as well too. They're also printed on the major arcana. Just for fun, let's look at the court cards, if you will. 11 for the Pentacles. Actually, let's do all the court cards now. 14, love the labyrinth. Okay, so here are your Pentacle 11, 12, 13, and 14. I suppose I would ask myself in each of these cards, what is the response to the what is the response to the element? To be in it, to be in its environment is a very queenly thing. I suppose you could read a lot into the position of the horse head, the fact that we have a like there's no body, right? No body on the horse. In the swords, there is your knight. There's your 12. 11. Actually, really glad I'm doing this. Now I can make more sense of this. 11, 12. 14, and 13. There is usually in the suit of swords, and we can compare this to the whole suit, there is it's predominantly yellow, but there's this pink energy that is arising here. And what's coming to mind is, and this could be a golden dawn thing. Um, yeah, and there is pink throughout this suit as I'm looking at it. If we are working with a tarot deck, wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, um, there is a flow of energy from fire to water to air to earth. And I think one of the confusing things about the tarot is the amount of water, especially in the Waite Smith deck that we see in the Suit of Swords, which is presumably connected to the element of air. But I think this really speaks beautifully to that flow of energy from the emotional to the mindful. Um, yeah. Okay. And then the court cards in the Suit of Wands. Just going to pull those out for you. 11. We also have a hammer there, which is kind of interesting. We do not have horses in all of the 12s. I believe this is the first court that we have seen sitting on a throne. And notice the position here, the relationship between the queen and the king, the 13 and the 14. So we have a close-up of the 13th down low, almost looking like they are cement. And then the 14th one is several layers higher. Okay. I'm a bit, my initial impression is one of curiosity, very much one of curiosity. And I think it's going to take some time to unpack this whole journey. So here is the journey of the Pentacles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am going to develop some questions. I think very basic questions in working with this tarot. One will have to do with the perspective. 2 will have to do with the size and the relationship between the environment and the size of the humans that are in the environment. And there'll be some sort of question about the connecting cards. And I think these sort of reflections will help in building and deepening understanding. Here is the 6 of Pentacles, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And because of the quality of the paper, they fit together really well, and it's easy to line them up. They're not slippery cards that are gonna be all over the table. I think the Pentacles is the suit that's gonna be easiest to work with and less, problematic as far as its emotional component. Here is the Ace of Swords, which I showed you earlier. The relationship, the size of the sword over that human is really interesting. Another thing that I love to do in the tarot is to look at the relationship between the 1 and the 10. The 1 and the 10. Um, Let me show you in another suit. It really does give us a good picture of the planning and the foresight of the deck creator to see the journey from the beginning to the completion of a suit. Okay, so there is your ace and your 10 of swords, and I will fill in the middles, and you can see all of the pink colors. 7, 8. Okay, there's your 2. I'm I'm intrigued with the softness of the color, uh, juxtaposed with the intensity of the sword's energy. The way that the swords are drawn, they almost look as if they are grave markers, crosses on a grave. The boat in the 6 of swords is in the foreground, and I need to sit with this one. I can't. It almost looks like there's a bridge and a dam, and the boat is down below. Let's move these over so you can see the end of the story. 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of swords really does look like a pin cushion. If you have the before tarot, the after tarot, um, the vice versa tarot, these decks also do something similar with perspective. So there's your 7 of wands, and you can see that we're looking at this story from a different perspective, right? We're behind. And I think that gives a different sort of vocabulary in describing the journey. So on the other side of that card, so there's 7, there's the 5. I'll put this all up for you in a second. There's 5, 6, 7. In the 6 of wands, the 6 wands are around what appears to be a sacred tree. I wonder if there is also an environmental conversation that is happening here. There's the 8. Now, notice what's going on here. The 10 of wands. The creator has, so the Roman numeral is on the bottom of the card now. We have, I believe this is the only minor arcana where the Roman numeral is down at the bottom. This is a really, for me, this is a very challenging place in the tarot to And now, because this deck is presented in a different order than Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles, I'm going to need to really think about where we're going, because here we are in the suit of fire, which then leads back to the suit of water, the way that this deck has been set up. But I need to see if I'm going to work with it that way or not. I didn't show you the beginning of the fire, so let's look at that. So there's your 5. 4 of fire. 3. Very familiar symbology, and the 2 looks like it could just jump right out of a um, traditional Rider-Waite kind of deck. I have not been paying attention to moons, so it might be kind of cool to pull out all of the full moon cards and to look and see how the creator is working with the energy of the moon. This is something that I'm wanting to pay much more attention to in uh, my reading of the tarot. I started a class last Saturday, and it's going to carry on the 1st of April. And 1st of April, we're going to look at all of the cards that are connected to Venus. But as I was saying in that 10 of Cups card, we really do see the influence of Mars, which is the ruler of the 3rd decan of Pisces. And so I'm pulling out cards and all of the associations according to planet and putting these together into mini workshops. So if you're interested, please hop onto my shop or shop on my channel and have a look there. Okay. And then let's just talk about like I said, the card stock is incredible. The deck, if you're interested, has silver edges. I have not shuffled it yet. These are the card backs, and this is going to shuffle brilliantly. I am a riffle shuffler, and I'll just gather all of the cards together and give it a quick shuffle, and I will do a 1-card pull because I'm very excited to shuffle this deck. I was also thinking about doing a video on all of the decks there might be 4 actually, the Alley Man Made Me Do It decks. And then also going back to revisit my journey with the Alley Man Tarot. And I know that the Alley Man Oracle is coming out, but I've looked at some of the images and I don't think it's for me. Okay, it's very stiff. It's going to take some breaking in. I will turn this down so you can see here. I was able to riffle shuffle it, but yeah, I think it is the gilding that has made it really stiff. And I do have I'm going to say medium-sized hands, but if I continue to do this, I will have yeah, it's gonna irritate my skin from the silver edges. But I have to say the silver edges do kind of complement, it's not one of those decks where it looks like based on the colors here that this should be gold, and it doesn't. It all matches together very, very nicely. Okay, I'm going to do a 1-card pull. So if you want to have a question in your mind, take a breath in and a breath out. And for me, I'm going to ask, what is the gift of this tarot deck? Why has this tarot deck come into my life? And what is it about my intrigue with it that is most important? Whether I will be using it for myself or with others doesn't really matter this time. What is the greatest gift of this tarot? Yeah, okay. All right, so that is a very weird cut when that happens. I have the 4 of Wands. Okay, I'm gonna show you the card. Sorry, there's a bit of reflection here. One of the things that really intrigued me with this particular card, are the overhead wires, the aerials. I'm not sure that I noticed that in any of the other cards, almost as if this is the only card where we see potentially electricity. I don't know if they're perhaps tram wires. I need to look at it a little more carefully. The figure that is in the foreground, to me, it looks as if they're facing the scenery that is in the distance. That is something is in development. There is new structure, right? So, um, this deck very much could be fundamental to my own practice. Having a 4 show up, a 4 of initiation, a 4 of fire, a 4 of will, um, yeah. Um, so I'm going to sit with that. And if this card responds to the question that you asked, then take that with you for the rest of this day. And I want to wish you well. And please let me know if you have any feedback about this deck. Please be sure to come back and write something in the comments below. Thank you.